In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl moved into an old duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. The house wasn't luxurious, but it was big enough for their growing family. The walls were faded, the paint was peeling, and the wooden floors creaked under every step. Still, for them, it was a fresh start. The first night was quiet, just the sound of crickets outside and the evening wind slipping through the cracks of the old wood. But by the second week, strange things began to happen. The brand new television suddenly exploded with a deafening bang, sending sparks across the living room. Furniture slid across the floor as if pushed by unseen hands. From the upstairs bedroom, Janet began to smell a putrid stench like rotting flesh, even though the house had been scrubbed spotless. At first, they tried to ignore it, but night after night, the disturbances grew worse. Jack often woke up to soft moans coming from inside the walls, like someone was trapped within them. Their daughters screamed, insisting they saw a dark figure standing at the foot of their beds. Janet's fear deepened the day she found long, claw-like scratches etched into the walls of their bedroom. Scratches that hadn't been there the night before. "Jack, this house isn't normal," Janet whispered, her face pale. One night, Janet awoke to find her body paralyzed. She tried to scream, but her tongue felt frozen. In the darkness, a shadowy figure climbed onto her, pressing her down as if it wanted to suffocate her. She felt its hot breath on her face, and then it was gone. Jack wasn't spared either. He claimed he was thrown against the wall by something invisible, his body bruised by an unseen force. The house was no longer a home. It was a cage. Desperate, the Smurls called on the famous paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. The moment Lorraine stepped inside, her expression changed. "There is something evil here," she whispered. "This is not just a restless spirit. This is demonic." The Warrens tried to bless the house, but each time they prayed, the house fought back. Lights flickered violently, doors slammed shut, and the air turned icy cold. A crucifix hanging on the wall flipped upside down on its own. The Catholic Church later performed an exorcism. Holy water was sprinkled, Latin prayers filled the air, and suddenly, dozens of voices screamed at once from every corner of the house. But instead of peace, the activity only grew more violent. The stench, the shadows, the attacks, they all intensified. Janet broke down in tears. Why us? What did we do to deserve this? Jack could only hold her trembling hands, though fear consumed him as well. For nearly 15 years, the Smurl family lived in terror. Neighbors swore they heard screams coming from the house, even when no one was home. Eventually, the Smurls moved out, yet rumors spread that even after the house stood empty, strange lights were still seen in the upstairs windows, and passers-by claimed to smell the same foul stench in the air. And to this day, no one knows if the demon ever left, or if it's still waiting inside for its next family. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl moved into a quiet home in Pennsylvania. At first, it was normal, but soon the terror began. A brand new TV exploded without warning. Furniture slid across the floor, and from the upstairs bedroom came the stench of rotting flesh. At night, their children screamed. They saw a dark figure standing at the foot of their beds. Janet found claw marks carved into the walls, marks that hadn't been there the night before. Then, it attacked. Janet woke, paralyzed, unable to scream, as a shadowy figure climbed onto her, pressing her down. Jack was hurled against the wall by something he could not see. The family lived in fear, desperate. They called Ed and Lorraine Warren. The moment Lorraine entered, she whispered, This is not a ghost. This is demonic. Exorcisms were performed. Prayers filled the rooms. But the house fought back. Lights flickered, doors slammed, and dozens of voices screamed at once. For nearly 15 years, the Smurl family lived in terror. Even after they left, neighbors swore they still saw lights in the upstairs windows and smelled that same foul stench. The demon never left, and maybe it's still waiting. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl thought they had found their dream home, a quiet duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It wasn't perfect. The paint was peeling. The floors creaked. But it was a place to build a future. For the first few nights, nothing seemed unusual. But soon, the house revealed its true nature. It started small, a drawer sliding open by itself, a radio turning on with no one touching it, a foul stench drifting through the hallways. Then, it grew darker. A brand new television suddenly exploded. Furniture shook violently, as if something unseen was raging inside. Janet often woke at night to the smell of rotting flesh. Her daughters screamed, because a shadowy figure stood at the foot of their beds. One morning, she found long claw marks gouged into the walls. Deep, unnatural, as if something inside the house was trying to tear its way out. The attacks escalated. Janet awoke one night paralyzed. She couldn't move, couldn't scream, and in the darkness, a heavy, shadowed figure climbed onto her chest. Its breath was hot against her face. She prayed, but it didn't stop. Jack wasn't spared either. He was thrown across the room by invisible hands, dragged by something he couldn't fight. This wasn't just a haunting, it was a war. Desperate, the Smurls turned to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators. The moment Lorraine stepped inside, her face went pale. "There is something here," she whispered. "Something evil. This is not human. This is demonic." The Warrens tried to help. They prayed, blessed the home, placed holy water in every corner. But the house fought back. Lights flickered violently. Doors slammed shut. A crucifix hanging on the wall twisted itself upside down. And then, dozens of voices screamed from the walls. The Catholic Church sent priests to perform an exorcism. Latin prayers echoed through the rooms. The air grew icy cold. The stench of sulfur filled their lungs. The priests commanded the spirit to leave, but instead, the violence grew worse. The Smurls lived in fear. For 15 years of shadows, of voices, of attacks, of living in a house that seemed to breathe with hatred. Finally, the family left. But neighbors say the house never stayed quiet. At night, strange lights flickered in the upstairs windows, and those who walked past claimed they smelled that same foul stench. Some believe the demon never left, that it's still there, waiting. And if you ever find yourself in West Pittston on a dark, quiet night, look closely at the windows of the old Smurl home. You might see something staring back at you. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl believed they had finally escaped years of hardship. They bought a modest duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, a quiet neighborhood, a place to raise their children. The house was old but affordable. Creaking floors, faded paint, a smell of dust and age clinging to the walls. Still, they were grateful. It was home. But very soon, home began to change. The first signs were subtle. Drawers opening by themselves. The radio switching stations without anyone touching it. a sudden chill sweeping through rooms, even on warm summer days. Then came the smell, a foul, rotting odor that drifted from room to room. No matter how hard Janet cleaned, the stench returned. And it wasn't just the smell. The family began hearing whispers, soft at first, muffled voices as if coming from inside the walls, but the whispers grew louder. And sometimes they weren't whispers at all. They were screams. The activity escalated. A brand new television suddenly exploded, sending shards of glass flying. Furniture moved on its own, chairs scraping across the floor. Their daughters cried at night, saying a dark figure stood in their bedroom doorway, watching. Then Janet saw it too, a black shadow, tall and formless, gliding through the hallway. Every time she tried to approach, it vanished. One morning, Janet discovered something worse. Long claw marks carved into the walls of the bedroom. Fresh marks, as if some beast had been there during the night. Fear consumed them. But the attacks grew more violent. One night, Janet awoke paralyzed. Her body was frozen. She couldn't scream, couldn't breathe, and in the darkness, something pressed down on her chest. A heavy, shadowy figure straddled her body. Its hot, rancid breath filled her face. She prayed silently until it vanished. Jack wasn't spared either. He claimed something invisible had thrown him across the room, dragged him by his ankles, left him bruised and gasping for air. This was no ordinary haunting. This was war. Desperate, the Smurls sought help. And that's when Ed and Lorraine Warren entered the picture. The Warrens were famous for their investigations. They had dealt with the Amityville case, the Annabelle doll. But the Smurl home would become one of their darkest encounters. The moment Lorraine stepped inside, she froze. Her face turned pale. "There is something evil here," she whispered. "This is not a human spirit. This is demonic." The Warrens performed blessings, reciting prayers in every room. But the house resisted. Lights flickered violently. Doors slammed shut. And then, a crucifix on the wall twisted upside down before their eyes. During one session, Lorraine said she saw multiple dark entities. Not one spirit, but several, and one of them, she believed, was strong enough to destroy lives. The Catholic Church was contacted. Priests were sent to perform an exorcism. As they prayed, the air grew icy cold. The smell of sulfur filled the rooms. The priests commanded the spirit to leave, but the house fought back. The walls shook violently. Voices, dozens of them, screamed at once, and shadows darted across the rooms like predators circling prey. The Smurls were trapped in a nightmare, and it lasted not days, not months, but years. For 15 years they lived with fear, whispers in the dark, shadows in the hall, physical attacks, and the constant feeling that something was watching, waiting. Finally, broken and exhausted, the family left. But the story didn't end there. Neighbors reported strange lights flickering in the upstairs windows. Even when the house was empty, others swore they smelled the same, foul stench while walking by at night. And some claimed to hear faint screams echoing from inside the abandoned home. To this day, no one knows if the entity was ever destroyed. The church has never confirmed its victory. The Warrens believed the demons simply remained, bound to the land, and perhaps it still waits inside that old duplex on Chase Street. Silent, patient, hungry, waiting for the next family who dares to call it home. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl thought their struggles were finally over. They had been through financial hardship, family issues, and years of moving from place to place. But now they had found a home, a duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It wasn't perfect. The walls were worn. The pipes groaned and the air carried the scent of age. But it was affordable. And for the Smurls, it meant stability. It meant peace, or so they thought. At first, life in the duplex was quiet, but only for a short time. The disturbances began small. A drawer sliding open without a hand touching